If you're a beginner feeling overwhelmed about what to practice in order to master the drums, or you literally just have no idea where to start, you have no idea what to practice to get going, then today's lesson is for you. The most common self-taught beginner mistake is trying to practice bits and pieces of everything. Like everything you find from all the great online resources, because there's so many of them. But the result is overwhelm, inconsistency, and eventually stalling and burning out. But that's not going to be you because you're here hanging out today. And so here's what I want to do for you today. We're going to build a core practice session of just a handful of critical things to do each and every day to guarantee that you grow so that you're avoiding overwhelm, confusion, or stalled progress. Let's get you mastering the drum so that you're able to just sit down and play whatever you want to play. Imagine that. That would be a blast. So let's get to where you're doing that day by day. And to make all of this super easy, it's also all in PDF form in the description below. You can literally go grab that PDF and not even watch the entire video. It'll save you some time, but that'll be your physical companion to take to the practice room. Literally your free cheat sheet to faster growth. So let's dive in. You can do this. Hey, welcome to the Non-Glamorous Drummer. I'm so glad you're hanging out here today. I help self-taught beginner drummers know what to practice, which is a big thing we're talking about today, so that you can play songs faster, so you can really nail songs and be able to play with a band and become that drummer that other people want to jam with and want to play with. And so today's lesson is hopefully going to get you several steps closer to that, so you're able to do that even if you're a total beginner today with no prior experience, or maybe you've been playing for a little while and you're just finding yourself stuck. You're in a rut and you're like, I feel like I'm practicing everything, but I'm not growing. You're in the right place today. The most common question that new students come to me asking is, what do I need to be practicing? And they're always asking, what do I specifically need to be practicing? And that's something that I'm always helping one-on-one students with, because I can give them that attention to figure out, okay, what are their weak areas? What do they need to practice? But the interesting thing, I've worked with a lot of one-on-one students. I've got a lot of awesome students that I work with in groups in my paid membership community. And there are a lot of common trends, a lot of things everybody kind of has in common that really everybody's weak in this area. Everybody needs to work on this. And so what I want to do today is kind of give you this all-inclusive look at what, on average, everybody needs to be practicing, especially if you're a beginner. Because what happens under the underlying question of what do I need to be practicing is coming from a place of feeling scattered, feeling confused, feeling overwhelmed, like you're finding all these things to practice, but you're not growing. And so you're not confident in what you're practicing because of all that bouncing around, and so you're kind of stuck, right? And so that's what I want to get you out of today. And so here's where we're going. Your daily actions determine where you're going to be years from now. Any of you who have read any productivity books, there's a good one by James Clear called Atomic Habits. It's the whole concept of your daily habits are going to affect where you are years from now. The obvious example of this would be fitness, where, of course, if you go walk a few miles every day, well, a year from now, you're going to be in way better shape than you are today. It's those little actions that have big effects in the long run. So having a consistent, productive core practice session that delivers results automatically will make a world of difference in your drumming growth when we're looking 6 months down the road, even just 3 months, but especially a year down the road. I want you to take a second to imagine what is possible. Imagine what kind of drummer you can become a year from now if every day you practice productive things for 30 minutes that are consistently helping you grow. How much growth is possible? Consistency is the key, and I want to help you do that. So the 3 things to practice every day. Now, if you've watched many of my lessons, you might have heard me pitch another e-guide I have that is the 3-part daily practice routine for busy drummers. It's the Know What to Practice guide. Basically, what we're doing today is simplifying that whole thing. If you've downloaded that guide before, and if you're on my email list, you know that that's kind of this all-inclusive thing that's a whole bunch of options to choose from, this whole buffet of your practicing buffet. You can choose a little from here and from there and from there. And that's great, but even that can be overwhelming because it's not this step-by-step linear list you go down. What we want to do today is create a linear list you can go down where it's just, all right, do this, and then this, and then this, and that, and that, and that, and that, and do this every day. That way you're not having to make any decisions. You're not having to pick and choose what to practice today. The work is cut out for you, whether you've got 30 minutes a day or 2 hours a day. This is going to work great. So this is your simplified know what to practice So it's kind of the Know What to Practice 2.0. It's the new and improved, simplified version of that old PDF that was so helpful to so many drummers, but also a little bit overwhelming at the same time because there's so much in it. This is a lot simpler, and this is also especially geared toward beginners. And that's what we're doing today. So be sure to download the PDF, grab that. You can even pull it up right now as your visual companion and notes and notation and everything to today's lesson. And the rest of today, we will just be breaking down exactly how to use this and how each of these things works. So let's dive in. The first thing of our 3 things to practice is the flow exercise. So a really big struggle that so many people mention, whether it's a student I talk to or somebody who on my email list who responds to a survey I send out as I'm planning content, I'm having a hard time applying technique to the drum set. I'm sitting here and I'm practicing on my pad and I'm getting real quick on the pad and I can do, finger stuff. Maybe they're working on, that kind of stuff's great. I've had students who can do faster finger stuff than I can, but then they get on the kit and it kind of just falls apart and everything's kind of stiff and clumsy and they don't sound good. So why is that? That's a big struggle if we're working on this great technique, but we can't apply it to the kit. Well, what we have to do, and the answer is kind of obvious, we just have to do it. If we want to apply our technique to the kit, we need to practice hand technique on the kit. So I'm not saying don't practice on your pad. I love my practice pad. The Aquarian Super Pad's a fantastic pad. You should get one if you don't have one. And I use it all the time, especially if you need to practice quietly. It is better than not practicing. And it keeps you focused, just right here. There's no rest of the drum set. But there comes a time in your playing where if you want to really play the drums, you've got to play the drums. So our flow exercise, what we want to do is just practice moving from drum to drum, but we're paying a lot of attention to how we're doing this. So we're making sure that we're gripping the sticks nice and firmly because, yes, we're going to get some rebound from the snare. The stick will bounce up like that. So we can do that and that's great, but what about on the floor tom? It actually, there's a decent amount of rebound here, but what we have to actually do is create our own motion here in order to go. So what I'm changing in my hand to do that is I'm moving my fulcrum closer to my palm for a firmer grip. I'm wrapping my fingers around, not tightly, just firmly and snugly, making sure ring finger and pinky are making contact with the stick. That way I can literally go like this. Like if you tap your leg and then lift the stick up, see if you can go like this. Just tapping your leg, lifting the stick up, back and forth, smooth motion. That's what we want to do when we hit the drums. So we want to create these smooth arc motions moving in pairs. So think about with my drum set, I've just got 2 toms. Maybe you've got more than that. But if you just have 2 toms, this is simple because there are 3 possible pairs: snare and rack, rack and floor, snare and floor. So practice going back and forth between each of those 3 combinations of 2. So what we don't want is this. That's stiff and we're pressing down. We want to be lifting the stick up, creating these arcing motions. Here's what we also don't want to do. You got to put a little bit of energy into this, even if you're playing softly. You notice how I didn't get much louder between those 2 examples, but instead I was lifting the stick, use a little bit of forearm, just grip firmly so that you can do this up and down. We're not being totally loose, because if you're totally loose, you're going to feel like you're flailing. You'll feel like you're going, and that'll be all flaily and sloppy. But if you grip more firmly and you can create this motion, practice moving back and forth between the pairs. A little bit of wrist rotation is good too. So this is all notated there in the guide. It's a nice, pretty notation where you see, okay, we're doing snare, rack, we're doing the toms, we're doing here, back and forth. And then beyond that, of course, there's a lot of different things you can do here, but we're keeping it very simple. Keeping this very simple because this is what you want to do every day. Practice doing that where you're literally just applying your technique to the kit. Do that with your right hand, do that with your left hand. You can even hit other things too, like the edge of a cymbal. Practice hitting your crash and going like that instead of going. Pretty much never want to do that where the stick just buzzes into the cymbal. We want to hit it and come off. We want to glance off. We could even strike at an angle. This is that firmer grip we have to use in order to do that. And so practice getting used to that with either hand, just hitting stuff, moving around the kit. Then just do measures of 16th alternating singles, something like this. So as you're doing that over and over again, you're just paying attention to that smooth stick height, smoothly going from drum to drum. You're going nice and slow. You're not trying to go too fast. You're just working on that smoothness. You're applying your technique to the drum set so that things are nice and fluid. So yes, we have simplified this. We have summed this up, but this is the core simple thing that every beginner should do every day, and even advanced drummers ought to do every day. We can all get better at moving around the kit. If you're a more advanced player, maybe you're working on getting louder, maybe you're trying to build some strength, you're trying to go faster, maybe you're trying to do, different patterns. There's a lot you can practice. But again, this is simple. If you're a beginner, this is what you want to do every day. And this is how we connect our technique to the drum set and how we connect the whole practice of technique to the practice of coordination. That's our second thing. Second thing we want to practice every day, the twofold coordination growth method. So I'm really excited about this because I think this is going to help you a whole bunch because it makes a lot of sense, and it's also going to be fun, and it's going to help you build four-way coordination, but also build some simple three-way coordination that's easy. It's kind of this all-inclusive coordination method. It's all outlined in the guide, so grab the PDF because you can see it all there, but I'm going to show you how this works. So most self-taught drummers are weakest in the coordination department because if you're not practicing something consistently, like you don't have a method to follow for building coordination, then odds are you're not going to build much coordination. And that was where I fell as a self-taught drummer for 2 years. I didn't build much coordination. I was kind of just playing around, having fun. Built some basic three-way coordination. My left foot couldn't do anything. Then I went and started taking lessons, and the biggest thing my drum set teacher gave me on that day one was a method. And he said, here's what you're going to work on for building coordination. Here's what you're going to do next. Here's what you're going to do after that. And so for months, I was consistently building coordination. And within a few weeks, I had built more coordination than I had in the prior 2 years of hacking it on my own. And so it's so critical that you have a coordination method. So if you're a self-taught drummer and you feel like you're weak in that area, you're not able to just play what's in your head, this is going to help you out a whole bunch. I'm calling it the twofold coordination growth method because there's kind of these two approaches. We're taking this double approach as we're playing, and it's all laid out in the guide so you can see it visually. But here's the first thing we want to do. We want to take a really simple groove that any beginner can sit down and play, like the money beat, this right here. Simple beat, so we're not really having to think too much. We just want to be able to play that, get that feeling good, spend however much time you need to, even as like a bare bones beginner, just getting that up and running. And if you're a more intermediate player, spend some time getting it feeling good. A lot of times the simple stuff is hard to make feel good because we kind of get anxious. Relax, make it feel good. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to practice playing this money beat with 3 different right hand timekeeping patterns. We're going to move the right hand over to the right, and we're going to do it with eighth notes, quarter notes, and ands. So if we're doing eighth notes, it's just like this. Quarter notes means we're just going. That's an easy one to rush, so try to relax, keep that in time, keep it all locked together. Then ands. That's really weird the first time you do it, but it'll get more comfortable. Give it some time. It technically is a linear pattern. You're technically, you're linear drumming there because you're not playing any 2 limbs at the same time when you're doing that. And so that's the third one. So there's our 3 right hand variations. Now we also want to do that same thing with the left foot. Again, this is just with money beat. This is super simple. Kick on 1 and 3, snare on 2 and 4. Let's do eighth notes. Well, first we'll do quarters. First, let's do quarter notes with the left foot. Now let's go to eighth notes with the left foot. However slow you need to go. Then let's do ands with the left foot, just like we did with the right hand. Remember, there's no rule saying you got to do this stuff fast. Go as slow as you need to. Now, if we do some math on this, there are 9 possible combinations we can do if we mix the right hand timekeeping patterns with the different left foot timekeeping patterns. Because we can do something like eighths over here and ands over here. Or we could do quarters over here and ands over here. So there's 9 different possible combinations. They're all notated out nicely for you in the guide. So that's the first step with coordination. Now, this does not have to happen in a day or in a week. Spend as much time, the next month, however much time you need to, getting comfortable with these 9 possible combinations, all while we're not even changing the kick drum or the snare pattern. That's all staying the same. We're focusing on that right hand and that left foot. But if this were the only thing we were doing to build coordination, we'd have a big problem. And it's the big problem of the fact that we are human and this is boring. Let's be honest, it's boring. If this is all you're going to practice for like 30 minutes straight, an hour straight, money beat, trying these different combinations, that's hard. It's not fun. I'll be straight with you. Building coordination involves doing some things that are not fun. You've got to, it's just like going back to the fitness example of doing some things that aren't fun every day so you get long-term results. That's the way this is going to be. Do some things every day that aren't fun, that really push you and really challenge you. They will become easy. They will become fun. But we want to make this fun. This is why this is a twofold approach. So that's the first thing. The first thing, what you're going to do every day is you're just going to begin working through those 9 combinations. If you only get through 1 today, that's fine. You've got the rest of your life to get through them. We're not in a hurry. We're not trying to rush this whole process. Enjoy the journey. Gradually work through those 9 different things. That's the first thing you do in coordination. The second one is we just want to learn a whole bunch of grooves, but make them as easy as possible by ignoring the left foot. So what we're going to do here for the second half of the coordination approach is let's just learn some new patterns. Let's just get through some new material. Let's just learn new grooves while keeping our right hand timekeeping simple, like eighth notes, and doing nothing with the left foot. That means you can move your right hand to the hi-hat if you want to. So these are just simple grooves like just real simple eighth note based stuff. Some of these, if you're a total beginner, you'll have to spend a little bit of time getting the hang of it, but they're all simple. It's just 3-way coordination, nothing with the left foot. And so you'll be surprised at how quickly you can learn these. Now, something else really important here. A lot of times what happens with coordination is if you picture like an old graph from geometry, you've got your x-axis, you've got your y-axis. Let's imagine that the x-axis is tempo. So we've got like 50 beats a minute down here. We've got like 150 beats a minute up here. Our y-axis is dynamics. We've got super loud rock drumming up here. We've got super chill, quiet, whisper drumming down here. Most of the time, think about where on the spectrum you play most of the time. Especially if you're a beginner, you've gotten started. Where is your comfort zone? Well, odds are it's more in the slow tempos. Odds are it's kind of quiet. So you might be kind of living down here. This might be your comfort zone. Odds are your comfort zone is not super loud and fast yet. Odds are quiet and fast is uncomfortable. And so when you think about the different combinations here, depending on where we're at, odds are you've got this comfort zone. So what we've got to do to really build coordination, because what will happen is you could feel like you've built a bunch of coordination, but if you've only practiced at 70 beats a minute and you've only practiced at this volume, what you'll find is if I were there in the room with you and I said, all right, Joe, I want you to play this loud. Maybe you could do it, but odds are it wouldn't sound as good and it would get sloppy and it might start to fall apart and you'd have to rethink it and it would feel totally different. Or if I said, all right, let's play it faster. Would it still feel as good? Odds are it would get a little bit stiff. Odds are you'd have to rethink it because it would feel totally different at that tempo. Or if I said play it really slow. Can you be relaxed enough and incorporate those smooth, steady arm motions from our first step well enough to be able to pull that off? Odds are it's going to train wreck. That's just what happens. That's just the way it is because we find these comfort zones on that spectrum where we're comfortable at this tempo and this dynamic. So what we've got to do is stretch ourselves beyond that. So what I want you to do as you're going through this, the second part of the coordination method, you're learning these different eighth note grooves. So what I want you to do is find your comfort tempo. That comfort tempo might be 75 beats a minute. It might be 80, it might be 70, but odds are somewhere around there is your comfort tempo where you can just sit here and play relaxed all day. But what I want you to do is clock that with your metronome, see what tempo that is. Now go 10 beats a minute slower and get that same groove feeling just as good, 10 clicks slower. Then go 5 clicks faster than the comfort tempo. So you have this, you now have like a spectrum of 15 beats a minute that you're practicing in. Maybe you're going down as slow as 65 and as fast as 80. And so maybe you're able to get these 12 grooves in the guide that are just the simple three-way coordination kick snare patterns. Maybe you're able to get all these 65, 70, 75, 80. If so, that's awesome. And that's the place where you want to be. But now you want to start widening that. We want to start seeing how much slower can we go? How much faster can we go? So that eventually you're able to go and it still feels good. Or you can go at a crawling snail's pace and it still feels good. Now also, we want to start widening that dynamic gap. Okay, how soft can we go while not feeling like we're about to trip and tumble? How loud can we go? Loud is usually a little bit more fun. But sometimes the challenge is, if you're in an apartment, if you're trying to practice in your basement, not disturb the rest of the family, sometimes it's tempting to stay timid. Do whatever you've got to do to be able to play louder. Put practice gear on your kits, on your kit. Put like Remo silent strokes or Arch on black hole, Swiss cheese practice cymbals with the holes in them. Do whatever you've got to do to be able to hit harder without disturbing people so that you can confidently do that so that you're able to widen that dynamic range. Always remember that the how you're practicing is just as important, if not more important than what. You could take any groove beyond just these 12 in the guide and apply these same concepts of let's widen our tempo, let's widen our dynamic. You could take any of the grooves in any of my other PDF guides you might already have, like the 30-day coordination guide, the 25 grooves and fills guide. The point is not what the groove is you're practicing, it's how you're practicing it. Can you play it well soft? Can you play it well loud? Can you play it well at 60? Can you play it well at 120? And mix and match those so that you're practicing all over that, remember that spectrum of however slow we want to go, however fast we want to go, however loud, however soft. That will serve you well and help you so much in applying this to music, which is where we're going next. But one other thing, before we finish this up, naturally, you can probably guess, as you become more advanced, as you're growing, you want to start marrying these two parts to our coordination practice together so that this twofold approach actually kind of just becomes one. So what we want to do is take those different timekeeping variations from our money beat, and once you get really comfortable with, say, start layering in some of those different timekeeping things. You could bring in the left foot doing quarter notes. Or you can go to ands with the right hand. Which is super weird, especially if you do something like eights with the left foot. It gets way more advanced, right? It gets way harder. And so there's so much you can do and so far that you can go just with this simple method. And so that's why, hey, this is the beginner thing. This is what you work on as a beginner, but it's going to serve you well into the intermediate stage. And you'll really be able to get a lot done. And then, of course, you can apply this whole approach with anything else out there. So like I said a minute ago, we want to connect all these things. So we're connecting our hand technique to the kit by practicing the flow exercise. We're connecting our hand technique practice to our coordination practice by making sure that, okay, now when we're playing grooves, do we still have this relaxed fluid motion? We don't want to be like this, where we're all stiff. We want to have this nice, relaxed fluid motion. If you want to go the extra mile, throw in a fill every fourth bar. As you're practicing the grooves, add in a fill every now and then. extract as much practice value as you can out of this. So now we've got our hand technique connected to the kit, and that's all connected to our coordination practice. We can connect all of that to learning songs by practicing the different grooves at different tempos and volumes so that you're preparing yourself for whatever might come your way musically. That's why that whole spectrum thing I keep showing you is so important toward actual application to real life and to really playing songs. So let's get into our final step here, the learn songs by ear daily method. Now, I'll be straight with you. I'm not going to lie to you and say that you're going to magically train your ear and be able to learn songs by ear and do all this great stuff in a couple weeks, because it just doesn't happen that way. This whole process takes some time. But like anything, there's small steps you can take every day that will deliver those long-term results so that you'll be looking back 6 months from now and be like, wow, I used to not be able to hear kick drum patterns in songs. Wow, I used to have no idea why the drummer played that fill, but now it's like I've been enlightened to this whole world of how music is working and how drums work in music. This will happen when you follow these simple steps every day. Let's dive in. So tell me if this is you. Many students are stuck seeking out drum tabs or tutorials in order to learn songs. And that's okay if you really want to learn a song in detail and you want to learn it right and fully learn a song. There's a lot of great resources out there to help you do that. But the problem with that is that it takes too long. What if you're playing with a band? What if your goal is to play with a band? What if you've got to learn a 15-song set list? Or maybe you're playing like a full night at a restaurant or a bar or a club, and you've got to play like 30 songs. Maybe it's a 30-song set, a 45-song set. How are you going to learn that many songs if you're having to seek out drum tabs and notation and you're having to watch tutorials to figure them all out? That's not going to work. That's just not sustainable. It's not scalable. If you're going to learn one song in a month, okay, you can do that. But what if you've got to learn a bunch of songs this week? How are you going to do that? Let's start preparing for that, because I want you to be able to do that in the near future. Here are the steps you take every day. We've got to train your ear to be able to learn and memorize a song by ear. And there's a lot of nuance to this. There's a lot of different things you can learn as you're getting better at this. But again, our goal here is to keep it simple. What are simple steps you can take every day that don't require a whole lot of effort, but that will start training your ear? Here they are. And this is fun too. This is the fun stuff. When we're talking music, this is fun. This is not, arduous ear training homework. We're not doing that. This is fun stuff. The whole goal is for this whole thing to be sustainable where you can do it every day. Step one, listen to a song 3 times through headphones. So put on your headphones. We had a recent lesson about this, about the power of listening to music. So many drummers fail at this, of actually sitting down and just sitting back, listening and not picking up the sticks. That's what you've got to make yourself do. So that's the first thing I want you to do here. Put on your headphones, cue up a song. Doesn't matter what song it is. Ideally, you do a new song every day so that you're basically, listening to something new every day. Pull up Apple Music, Spotify, vinyl record if you're real cool, CD if you're old school but like the best audio quality. Wherever you get your music, cue it up, put on headphones. That way it's in stereo, you're immersed in it, you're hearing every detail. And listen through that song just 3 times in a row. As you're listening, what are we listening for? Melody and drum parts, basically. What is the singer singing? What is the melody of the song? Let's be able to sing the song back in our heads after we've listened to it 3 times. And how are the drum parts interacting with that? What's the kick pattern? Even if you can't figure out details, that's fine. Don't be overwhelmed by this. Just listen to the song, just enjoy listening, have fun. And the more you listen to it, the more you'll pick up on. So 3 times is a good minimum, but if you can do 5 times, if you can come back and then listen to the same song again in a few days, great. What I recommend you do is have like a set list of like 10 or 15 songs that you're cycling through. Each day you listen to one, but then you start repeating. You're kind of like a radio station. You've got your set list. Here's your top 40. You're just going to cycle through these throughout, the week. And so that way you're getting some repetition. You're beginning to pick up on more detail from that song that maybe you listened to last Tuesday and then last Saturday. But now you're listening to it again and you're like, oh, I'd never noticed that. Now I'm hearing something new. That's how you begin to train your ear without even trying, because you're just sitting there and you're just enjoying the music and you're trying to listen as much as you can and notice the drum parts and notice the melody. And so do that. Then step 2, play along to a familiar song 3 times in a row, or just spend like 20 to 30 minutes just working on it. And this doesn't have to be a complex song. Think of something simple like Vultures by John Mayer. That's one of my favorites. Love and Happiness, Al Green. Miss You by the Rolling Stones. Just pick a simple song. Something like, a lot of 80s stuff is pretty simple. You could pick a Bon Jovi song that's like real simple. There's some simple AC/DC songs. Stuff that's just got a basic beat, get that beat going on, and at that point, once you've kind of got that happening, you can kind of feel it out and play along. The goal here is not to learn a song perfectly. The goal is just to play. That's why a simple song is best. So you can just sit there and play along. Do this every day to a familiar song, something you've already listened to a bunch, something you kind of already know, so you can jump in and just start playing. Even if it's terrible, doesn't matter. Think about what will happen a year from now if you do these two things every day. If you listen to a new song 3 times in a row every day, then you might have listened to hundreds of songs a year from now, or you've done some repetition and maybe you've got 100 songs like really in your head. That means that's 100 songs you can now physically play and start figuring out, which you're also doing. And so you can start pulling from the list of songs you've now listened to a bunch to now play. And if you're playing a new song every day, you're going to grow so much. The goal is not perfectly learning that one song. The goal is just to expose yourself to a lot of different stuff and see what do I run into in this song? Okay, it's got this thing. Okay, that's a little weird. Let me practice doing that. You're going to have so much fun doing this. You just have to make yourself do it, challenge yourself to it, and just have a blast doing it. Find your favorite songs, your favorite bands, your favorite drummers. That's critical. I can't choose these songs for you. You got to do it. Pick your favorite song so that you're having a lot of fun here. Remember, your daily actions determine where you'll be years from now. So if every day you sit down and you do a little of this, practice playing around the kit, you practice some grooves. By the way, as you play more of these grooves, you'll start to get to where you can make up your own. That's what happens when you play them a bunch. So you can start making up stuff. You'll find, wow, my coordination's growing. So practice those grooves. Remember the 2 ways. We're working on the different timekeeping, then we're working on the different kick snare patterns. Those 2 parts to our coordination. Eventually we marry them together. We're working on different tempos, different dynamics. Then we're listening to a new song. We're playing along to familiar songs. Imagine what will happen if you do this every day for the next year. Even if you just do this every day for the next 6 months. Or even just the next 3 months. I want you to try this. I want you to test this out for yourself. Don't just take my word for it. Give this a try, and then in 3 months, shoot me an email and let me know what happened. It doesn't have to be every day, maybe like 5 days a week. It's fine to have a couple days off, and we all get busy. We have busy seasons of life. But consistency is so important. So do your best to be consistent, even if it's just 30 minutes and you're kind of skimming through this stuff. Just be on the kit so that it's staying fresh. And see what happens in 3 months. You'll be amazed at what happens in 6 months, and you might just be blown away by what happens in a year. You can do this. Grab the PDF e-guide companion that's got all the action steps, all the notation, play along recordings, all the good stuff, so that you can take all of this to your practice room and just have this no-brainer, no decision-making, no overwhelm, nice, simple, straightforward thing that you're going to do every day. Because here's what's cool. Now that you've got this core foundational method, you can add on whatever you want to that. It's fine to go and collect fun things that various people are teaching on YouTube and practice that too, as long as you have this core foundational method. When you've got this foundation, you're doing this every day, you know you're going to grow no matter what. So then you can add on some random that and some random this and this exercise this person did, and let's go work on that song and that weird thing, knowing that, hey, those are just great added on things that are only going to help you more. And because you've got that core foundational thing, you are growing without having to figure out what to practice next. And so that's tremendous. That means no more decision making each day. This means no more being scattered or overwhelmed, and you can know that you're getting better each day and will experience a world of difference a few months from now. So question for you as you go. Do you have a simple, consistent daily practice method? Especially, do you have a consistent coordination practice method? Because if you take one thing away from this, it needs to be that coordination method. That's the most valuable part of this PDF guide, just the coordination thing. That is what so many self-taught drummers are missing. That is critical. And so just take that. You know, you could forget the hand motion stuff. You could forget the songs. Ideally, you do everything because that's the full picture so you don't have holes in your practicing. But look, the most important thing here to be doing regularly is building your coordination. You've now got a method. So I want you thinking about that. I hope that you'll grab the PDF and take these action steps to heart, because I want to see you grow like crazy. This is how you do it. This is how you move from that self-taught beginner to, you know what, I can actually play stuff. I can actually become a gigging drummer. You can absolutely do it. You just got to put in the consistent effort day after day. It's not that hard. It's just be consistent, play the long game and stick to this, commit to it. You can do this. It's not glamorous, but you know, anything worth doing requires some long-term effort, and you can absolutely do it. So hey, I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. I hope you get a lot out of this. Thanks for hanging out today. Especially those of you who have hung out the entire time through this lesson, especially one of these long, detailed, nitty-gritty ones. There's always somebody in the comments who's like, man, your videos are too long. If you go take a drum lesson from somebody, you're probably going to spend at least 30 minutes with them, if not longer. And sometimes that's how long it takes to really get into something. So if you really want me to help you with this, if you really want to let me be your guide, which I would love to be, and be your teacher, your coach, helping you master the drums, it takes some time. We can't just do it in a little 5, 7, even 10-minute video. It takes some time. We got to really dive into this. And so I'm glad you're taking this seriously. I'm glad you're committing. You can absolutely do this. So thanks for hanging out today. Be sure to go grab the e-guide. I'll see you on the next lesson. Stay non-glamorous.